this is Vardanis from the Blades of Oblivion Guild on the Dragonbrand server. In this tutorial video I will discuss the conditions build Necromancer for PvE. Let's look at our equipped abilities. Consume conditions. Feast on your conditions, gaining health for each one consumed. Well of Suffering. Target area pulses, damaging foes and inflicting vulnerability. This is a high damaging spell, that's why I use it. But in some circumstances you may come across some bosses that add a lot of boons. You may have to strip off those boons. And anyway, Well of Corruption would be also a great alternative, which does a little bit of damage, not by much, but it says target area pulses, converting boons on the foes into conditions. That's pretty nice. Let's look at Epidemic. Apply vulnerability to yourself, spread conditions to a target foe to all nearby foes. I mean, on average I stack about somewhere between 15 to 17 stacks of bleed, and if you're playing with other classes that apply bleeds as well and you get up to 25, you can spread 25 stacks of bleeds and poisons or whatever that sucker may have to all of its little friends around it. So this makes Necromancer a pretty powerful AoE generator. Let's look at our next one. Power is Blood. Bleed yourself to gain might and bleed your target. This is pretty high damaging with your conditions because not only you gain 10 stacks of might, but you also put a pretty hefty little bleed for 39 seconds. Which mine's saying 8,300 damage. Also, you put bleed on yourself. Now, if you really need to get a big heal off, even though you're epidemic, you may not really need it, but I do use it for the vulnerability to myself. Then I get the self-bleeding effect from Power is Blood on myself, and then I will pop Consume Conditions. Then that will make me, a little bit stronger heal than what it normally would be. Let's look at our elite skill. I mean, come on, who doesn't like turning into a big giant lich thing and just destroying everything? This is what I prefer. I do enjoy the lich form more than anything, but the plague form is also it's okay. It could be better. ArenaNet can improve on it, but that's another alternative, especially being a conditions build. Or you can never go wrong with the flesh golem. Let's look at our traits here. I did 20 in Spite, 30 in Curses, 20 in Death Magic. Let's look at our equipped traits. I did Reaper's Might, Plague Blast, Life Blast, and Plague Blast gains Might for 15 seconds. So every time you cast your Life Blast or Plague Blast with the Lich form, you gain Might. Our other one here is Spiteful Marks. Marks do 10% more damage. I do use a staff with this build, which I will go into that later. Let's go look into our curses. Hemophilia, 20% increase bleed to deterioration. That is really nice. That allows you to keep putting up your stacks. You more stacks of bleed you have, the more damage you're putting out. So the longer those bleeds can last, of course, more damage you're doing. Focus Rituals. Wells use ground targeting. That helps with any of our will spells, our well abilities. So we can put those wells where I want, where we want them. The default is it just appears underneath your feet. So with this kind of build, you can put that well anywhere you want. Alright, let's go. Lingering Curse. Conditions inflicted by the Scepter skills last 33% longer. Like I said, condition build, the longer your conditions can last, the more damage they'll put out, and the higher you can stack them. Death Magic. Staff Mastery. Staff skills recharge 20% faster. Gotta have that. It's really nice. And my personal favorite is Greater Marks. Increase the area of marks and the marks become unblockable. I don't like the little itty teeny bitty little so-called marks that they put on the ground by default. I like the big ones where I'm hitting, a larger group of enemies. Let's look at my gear. I go with power, precision, and condition damage. See, on this particular item here, always the highest stat is going to be your main stat on there, which in this case is precision. It adds 45 precision. And as with this build, we need the precision for the crit. Now, somewhere between 3 and 2% off of 50% is where we want to be. Because let's look at our traits again. Because of this right here, Bard Precision, critical hits have 66% chance to cause bleeds. So this will also be able to stack up your bleeds. Once you hit somewhere between, I would actually recommend do not drop lower than 48%, but don't go higher than 50% for that trait there. I will start sacrificing, for example, this piece of gear here. Anything with these stats here, the power, vitality, and condition damage, your condition damage is going to be your main stat. And with the condition build, Necromancer, you want to build as much condition damage as possible. And with this build here, I do use, of course, for any kind of condition build for Necromancer, you need a scepter with the dagger offhand. And of course you can see here the power and precision and condition damage. The precision is my main stat with that particular weapon. And my sigil is the superior sigil of agony, increase inflicted bleeding deterioration by 10%. You know, like I said before, the longer your conditions stay, especially that one only affects your bleed, not your poison. So the longer your bleeds stay, the more you can stack and the more damage you can do. And then a must-have, absolutely the must-have sigil is the superior sigil of corruption. Gain plus 10 condition damage each time you kill a foe, max 25 stacks. So that equals about 250 extra condition damage. And as well on my staff. As well, it's a good idea. I know those sigils are actually, last time I checked, are fairly expensive. Don't quote me on this, but last time the ones I bought were, when I bought these, they were about 2 gold a piece. Now let's discuss what I like to call the sidebar weapons, which I use the axe and the focus. Now this is a condition build, but if you get everything with power on it, it does maybe not the best damage, as in if you actually literally go axe spec, but thanks to ArenaNet's infinite wisdom on making some boss fights that require where conditions do not affect the fight itself, you will really need to be able to use the axe for a direct damage. And what I normally would do is switch out my staff there for this. Now you're gonna have to get used to being in closer range of it, but I mean it helps. You know, you really sometimes you just need that direct damage boost there. And the sigils I put in is the sigil of force, 5% more damage. What they do is cheap, whatever. The other one is superior sigil of rage, 10% on critical. You gain quickness for 3 seconds. Pretty good, because with this build you have high crit, so that makes that particular sigil more adequate, which will help boost up your damage for not actually literally being spec'd for axe. I forgot to mention earlier about my superior runes. I use superior runes of the undead, which is 28 condition damage, 15 toughness, 55 condition damage, 35 toughness, and 100 condition damage, with the final set bonus of 5% of toughness becomes condition damage. It's a pretty good rune for a Necromancer, you know, especially you are putting points into toughness, and you will want some of your gear, because you're really squishy, so you're really going to want some, you know, for example, this necklace here that adds pretty much a little bit to everything. You know, that's the reason why crit. It's actually a little bit lower because I sacrificed some of my crit for what do you call it, for survivability. I like to survive. I don't like being dead. The longer I can survive, the more damage I can put out. So, you know, this particular rune will not only add damage to my build, but it will also add a little bit of survivability too as well. And that concludes my tutorial video of the condition build Necromancer. If you enjoyed my video, please like it and subscribe to it. Thank you very much.